And hello, welcome to the Lichess official broadcast of the World Chess Championship between Dinglirin and Gukeshdi. Today I have amazing guests with me. First of all, I switched you guys, so that's my mistake. So I have Grandmaster Felix Blohberger on the right, and an amazing Grandmaster Matthew Sadler with me as well. Welcome, guys.
Hi, good
It's
to
great
be
to
here.
be here. Great to be here.
Yeah, no, it's great having you. So name I know that names are mixed. I don't know if you guys are watching the stream, but I switch you guys around. So
Oh,
Matthew,
yeah.
you're now Felix, and Felix, you're now Matthew. I will fix that. Do not worry. But okay, let's actually just dive into the game because we already have some moves. There's no delay. And I think here the cameras are correct, so yes. Okay, today hopefully, by the way, the cameras will work. So far I tested everything, it should work, and yeah, let's just dive into the game. Yeah, by the way, thank you so much for coming, Matthew, and Felix is going to be my co-commentator anyway, so I will have enough of you eventually, right?
Yeah.
No, of course not, Felix. I think you're a great commentator, and you have great insights in game of chess as well. I kind of the young perspective of chess, the
Thank you, Laura.
modern chess.
Thank you.
Well, actually, Matthew, I think you also have very
Yeah,
modern
come on,
perspective of
Laura.
chess. So I'm the
You're
old
getting
one
the
here.
old perspective on chess.
No, I'm the old one here. I'm the old one here. You're doing amazing job with the engines and with all these insights coming from that side. So yeah, actually I'm the old one here. Please do not check my age. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So yeah. First of all, Matthew? What do you think about yesterday's game?
Oh God, yesterday's game was absolutely amazing. I was discussing it with Felix before we went live, and I mean, I was commentating on it on my channel, and I got it completely wrong, simply, yeah. And that was even with having lots of engine analysis around. I mean, I just didn't understand. I thought that Ding had really misplayed the opening, and that he was going to be in a lot of trouble, but somehow, he found this very narrow way of activating his pieces. The knight coming to b2, the queen coming to c4, and the strange thing was that it didn't just turn out to be just okay for black. It just all of a sudden went to really, really good for black, and you've no idea what white's going to do. I mean, I think from that point of view, I don't think Gukesh played badly at all. I think he actually played quite well, but he simply got into a position where Ding. It was, I think, really one of Ding's positions, and he also played it to a level that we haven't seen from him, for a couple of years, simply. So, yeah, it was an absolutely amazing game. I mean, really one of the best first World Championship games I think I've ever seen, and yeah, really impressive. And obviously, from a match perspective as well, I think it's much nicer that Ding gets in there, plays well, and gets lots of confidence, because that Gukesh is going to come back. He's such a great character, such great fighting character. That he's going to come back. So for the neutral, I think it was the best possible result to get the match going.
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree. The game was amazing, right, Felix?
Yeah, totally. Couldn't agree more with Matthew. Also, I don't know when was the last time that we saw in a World Championship match that the first game was already decisive, especially with the black player winning the game. I'm not sure when that happened the last time. So yeah, it was really exciting, and just can't wait for the game to unfold today.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yesterday's game was crazy, especially it was the French defense by Ding, first of all, which I mean, very happy about it, as I'm a French defense player. And then he won that game, even though, like you said, Matthews, somewhere in between, also me and Alexander, we were analyzing, and we thought a3 move, if you guys remember, was slightly dubious strategically. But somehow it just all worked out when the knight came on b2 later, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it was beautifully calculated, beautifully visualized, and yeah, certainly, I had no idea what was happening. I was even with looking at engines and all of that, I just didn't understand what was happening until it was too late.
Yeah. Okay. And today, if you guys want to check the opening, you guys were already surprised when I was fixing up the stream. You guys were already okay. So there was Italian, yeah. There is Italian on the board. The game is still going on, and you guys were very surprised why knight c3.
Yeah, knight c3, but also the first move. Ding was most of his life was a d4 or c4 player. He recently started playing e4, but my guess was that it was just to throw off Gukesh's team for the preparation for the World Championship match. But it turns out he was actually practicing those positions. And now we got this very topical knight c3 Italian, which I'm sure Matthew can tell us a lot about.
Please do, Matthew.
No, not very much at all, to be honest. It looks like 19th century chess to me. That's how they used to play in the old days. Yeah, no, I mean, it's actually, just for an older player like me, looking at modern opening theory nowadays, it's a really weird feeling, I have to say, because so many of the openings, which I have in my mind as, oh, that's nothing at all, not interesting at all, are being played at the at the top level, and stuff like this that you would have just sort of said, oh, beginner's chess, simply. If people are playing like this, they're rated 1800 or something. You're seeing it in the World Championship match. So yeah. It's a weird feeling, very weird feeling for me. I really, a lot of things I need to really just look twice at it and say it. But I mean, I guess, that's the beauty of engine analysis, of being able to analyze openings with engines. They enable you to think of ideas, try out ideas, and find little ways to keep the game going somehow, and much more than I think positions where in my day I used to say, oh, that's dull, nothing can possibly happen there. Yeah, with some hard work and some engine help, you can make an awful lot of everything. But if you ask, if you just ask me naturally, what is this like, I'd say, can't be very much for white somehow, this, but
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that I am a big Ding fan because we also share the same repertoire. Actually, I copied him, obviously, with mostly d4, c4. Oh, mostly d4, c4. Okay, the cameras have slightly collapsed. Sorry about that. Don't know what happened there. I will fix that. Don't worry. But yeah, so I was a big fan, and yeah, surprisingly, this e4 is also throwing me off. But I think everybody knows how to play the Italian, and I guess the game will be very interesting. So we can continue with a6, a4, and stop me when you want to when there's something going on that's weird. I think this is just normal, yeah. So far, so good.
normal-ish somehow, yeah. It's but I mean the game's actually taking quite a twist somehow.
Yeah,
it's really
very surprising what happened here. Yeah, I don't understand
So
much here.
there's just some sort of normal-ish moves, but now on move 9, Ding has done something quite remarkable somehow.
Yeah. So far, normal-ish, but I guess Ding seems to be more prepared. Well, more prepared. I guess Gukesh was taken aback slightly by this opening, given the time, right? Like I think Gukesh spent 13 minutes already. Ding 3 for this opening, so I guess Gukesh was not preparing the Italian, or okay, he was preparing it, but was not. Was slightly surprised to see it on the board, maybe. Would you
For
say?
sure, yeah. I would say if I was on Gukash's team, the Italian, especially the knight c3 Italian, wouldn't be the first thing to prepare for the match for sure.
Yeah, fair point. But okay, we have to keep in mind that Rapport is Ding second, and I mean we saw French yesterday. We're seeing e4 today. What else do you think we might see in the match?
Some crazy stuff, that's for sure. I don't know what else can Richie come up with. What do you think, Matthew?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of expecting some quite aggressive systems as black. That's my feeling. That I have the feeling maybe that Ding's going to go for some relatively solid on the white side. You know, just trying to get some good edge. But with black, maybe take a few more liberties. You know, and yeah, sort of try the more sort of kind of counter-punching attitude. You know, get Gukesh into these complicated situations. You know, and just make the position too tough for Gukesh to handle. I mean, because you know there's many ways of dealing with opponents, and I mean sometimes what you need to do, you don't need to fight the opponent directly. You know, you just need to make him fight the position, give him a position that's so difficult for him to understand that he goes wrong, you know, and he does the work for you. And I felt that was very much what happened in the game yesterday, that Gukesh just got a position that was actually so complicated that it would probably be beyond anyone as white, you know, to have really got to grips with it in a practical game. And I get the feeling that that probably with white, looking at this, Ding's going to be going for some, you know, some kind of quite solid sort of systems, but with black maybe going to be taking a few more liberties and asking Gukesh to take some risks somehow. It's but although I have to say that this what we're seeing on the board right now is pretty strategically interesting, because I think a5 is a novelty. At least I'm not seeing it in my database. And I mean, it's offering black the chance to give white 2 sets of double pawns here somehow. Which, yeah, it's pretty interesting somehow. You know, I mean,
but would you say a5 is actually typical idea in these kind of positions? Usually later, probably, right? Or not here?
I would say so, just to fix the pawn structure on the queen side, because then white will maybe later gain a bit of more space, and these pawns are fixed later on, so they could become weak in a later stage of the game. That would be my guess here.
Yeah, yeah, it's just a combination of moves that's really slightly strange somehow, yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
normally
Mm-hmm.
you see this advance on the queen side when white's got his knight on d2 and then the pawn on c3 and
Yeah.
d4. And here
Mhm.
somehow we're sort of combining, we're putting the knight on c3 and then now we're playing a4 to a5 without any c3 or b4, you know, so it's quite interesting. I mean, actually, you know, it's almost kind of a pawn sacrifice as well, right? I don't imagine that Gukesh will go for it, but I mean, Black could actually play the move Bishop B4 here, for example, you know, and win the pawn on A5. I mean, that's looks very risky, yeah. So I don't think that Gukesh will go for that.
Mm-hmm.
That
But
looks
it's a lovely move actually because there's so many things for Gukesh to think about here. I
Yeah.
mean, you've got to decide: are you going to give White the two sets of double pawns by taking on c4 and taking on e3? Probably you don't. That pawn structure that's remaining is a big clamp on Black's position, and the pawn on a5 fits in very nicely with that, also clamping the queen side. And of course, if you play bishop takes c3 and we get f takes c3, also always very nice to have the f file open. But okay, yeah, you know, you've got to decide also, yeah, what you're going to do if you don't do that. And I mean, cast, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I always feel very nervous with Black about, you know, making these
Yeah.
exchanges on c4
Yeah.
or on e3. To be honest, I mean, do you have any experience with this, Felix, as Black or as White?
Not that much. I never really played the Italian with white myself either because I just never understood it. To me, the Rui Lopez always seemed a bit more concrete and easier to understand because the Gioco Piano is just, there are so many details and so many move orders, it's really hard to understand. But from the black side, I try to avoid the system actually. After knight c3, I don't go a6, but I just allow white to go knight a4. Maybe we can go back to this moment here because black actually has many different moves. a6 is one of them. h6 is another one, kind of a sort of semi-waiting move. And d6, kind of the most obvious move is what I would do. And here, the point is that white gets the bishop pair with knight a4, and this leads to sort of different positions. But yeah, these structures are very hard to handle from my experience from both sides. So I always kind of restrained from going there.
Okay, yeah. Also, Felix, when you said you kind of don't understand the positions, like I can relate. Like I play five with black, even though usually I'm more Carcan or French player. But when I do and my opponent plays the Italian, I'm always slightly disappointed because it just feels more boring. I'm not a strategic player. You also have to keep this in mind. I am not. I like dynamic positions and imbalance in pawn structure. And Italian for me is also slightly like, oh no, I prefer the Roy Lopez as well. But I guess I have to work on myself, to understand these positions because they look boring, but they have so much complexity in them strategically. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me very much actually the time when I was professional, when all of a sudden the Bishop B5 Sicilian, Czech Sicilian, became popular, and just the amount of, it's just, when I was starting off in the 1980s, it was just some stupid line that you played to avoid theory. But, when Morozevich and started getting involved in playing it, and quite a few other players as well, the amount of theory exploded, and it was all quite subtle little move orders, and if you got all your move orders right, you got a slight edge, for white, and but it reminds me very much of the Italian because again, the Italian is they're playing all these subtle move orders, playing a6 first and then a5 later, and stuff that's very very hard to understand, but yeah, if you get your slight edge, you're getting an edge without black having any chances at all, and that's the attraction of it. It was the same attraction for the Bishop B5 Czech Sicilian. Avoid all those Najdorfs and dragons, and just get a slight edge with very simple means. So it's but I think you have to be professional, and I think it's one of those things where either you start straight away when people start getting involved in it, or you just say forever, yeah, I'm never going to get involved, because to come to it, like a year and a half later is just so confusing. You don't understand at all why people have done what they're doing. It's I had the same with the Berlin, to be honest. I mean, either you got into the Berlin in the year 2000, or you just you just look at it afterwards and you say, my goodness, it's going to take a couple of weeks just to understand all the theory somehow. It is quite amazing. It's. I mean, I've just seen, looking at the game actually. Gukesh took a very quick decision to take on c4, and what surprises me slightly, and it's certainly I am guilty of that myself as a practical player. So it's not a real criticism, but in general, after a move like Bishop c4. You'd expect Gukesh to play his next move quite quickly as well, because you take on c4 and then you've got your idea, and I follow up with but here I noticed it in the first game as well, that he played a couple of moves and then thought for another 7 or 8 minutes afterwards. And I do wonder whether that's not great time handling somehow, and I do wonder whether that's going to hurt him somehow. Or, it could be that he's played a move and he's spotted something else that suddenly seems quite tempting. But I don't think that's a good way to play. It's how I often ended up playing, but I'm a time trouble guy, right? So you certainly shouldn't copy that, and, it's... I think time handling is really important, right? So playing 40 moves without an increment or anything.
Yes.
Really, really important. I mean, to be honest, Bishop b4 is very interesting here now, now that you've taken on c4. Because you're threatening obviously Bishop a5, and you've also got a Bishop takes c3 there. So I mean, I'm guessing that after Bishop b4, we're going to play something like. Oh, he's played it.
No. Sorry, that was me. That was me.
Oh,
that was such a shock. No,
I'd be kind of surprised if he did, because this must be going into Ding's preparation.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, I guess we're playing knight d5 here, and then.
I just wanted to check what's going on.
Yeah, knight
I
d5.
love that surprise.
Probably after Bishop a5, we do something. Bishop takes a5, I guess. I mean, even knight takes e4 is possible right here.
That looks.
But I mean, we've got. We must have some fork somewhere. You would have thought. We've got knight b4s and not queen e1 straight away, but that's the sort of thing that you're sort of hoping.
Want this.
It's not. I mean, it's not obvious somehow. What you're supposed to be doing here with white somehow. So that would be that would be
interesting.
That would be very interesting to do, but I mean, I think it would be probably quite unwise to try and do that. And Gukesh has gone castles. But I do wonder whether he was sort of tempted and was sort of played Bishop c4 with the idea of playing castles, but then got tempted for a few minutes with Bishop b4, because it's not at all obvious how that would work out. But now he's played castles, so now it's up to Ding now to find a good plan.
I assume that sooner or later Ding will have to take on c5, or at least it looks somewhat obvious to release the tension at some point, because then the structure is, to me at least, looks really favorable for white, with this inclusion of a5 clamping down black's queenside, and then knight d5 could come after bishop takes c5. Looks like the obvious choice to me, but maybe Gukesh Ding can. Now he took, right? Yeah.
Okay, he took,
Yeah, he's going for his just slightly better structure, isn't he? So he's got a pawn a5 versus pawn a6. The rest is even, and then he's just claiming that that's going to give him an edge. And he's probably he's probably right, I guess.
Yeah.
And he's still playing so fast, so
still in prep, yeah.
Yeah, looks like it, yeah.
E3. What is B3 about? I don't understand at all. I don't understand at all.
You need to consolidate in this position. Clearly everything's hanging, so consolidation.
Yeah. I will say one thing that's. I'll say one thing that's interesting here, because frankly, B3 I don't particularly understand at all. So going to have to work that one out. But it is. I'm looking at the same time. I don't normally use engine analysis, but there's been something brilliant that's come up recently. It's called live.lc0.org, and it's the Leela engine, which is sort of giving analysis, but demonstrating its it's got a very unusual eval bar where it doesn't just give you the evaluation, it tells you what the winning chances, the drawing chances, and the losing chances are for every move that you can choose. So you can actually see quite nicely, who's playing riskily, are both players playing safely or riskily? When you choose a continuation, was that a riskier or a more solid one? And actually, this move B3 is Leela's top move by far, in actual fact. So, but it's going to be pretty subtle, I have to say, because I mean, I was only thinking about playing a move like. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to play knight d5 straight away. I imagine that knight e4 is probably not good, because if we go rook e1, then there would be f5. But knight d5 kind of feels like the move you want to play. So I was kind of thinking of rook e1 simply, actually, just to prepare knight d5. That seemed like a pretty natural thing to do. I guess something that you might argue about is that black might be able to play queen takes d1, and maybe you're wasting the tempo, because if rook d1, you might be able to take on a5, although knight e5, I don't know. Rook e8, you can play f4 and solidify yourself. That's maybe quite nice for. But maybe black can just protect something, and then you'd be attacking this one. And obviously, if you played rook e takes d1, you kind of think, oh, wouldn't it have been nice if I found some sort of strengthening move somewhere, that I could have played before black takes on d1. So I guess that maybe b3 is that strengthening move, and you're protecting the pawn on c4. So if black ever ends up taking on a5, then c4 is always already protected somehow. It's maybe quite a useful move from that point of view. But yeah, it's kind of subtle somehow. Yeah, it's really, really, really subtle.
Yeah.
And I'm not the most solid of players somehow. So I'm stifling the urge to yawn in this position, with two sets of minor pieces exchanged. And but it is the type of position that that can also turn out to suddenly become very unpleasant for one side if they don't get it right from the start. So from that point of view, quite a nice thing to give to Gukesh for the second game. So I mean, obviously, what he would really like would be some game where he has a clear, concrete solution leading to a draw, or leading to neutralizing White's initiative. But here, lots of possibilities. Yeah, got to be careful about not finding an equal continuation. And the best you're going to get here is a draw. And if you get it a bit wrong, it's a really cheerless position. So I think this is a good World Championship preparation from Ding here. Feels right somehow.
Absolutely, yeah. And I really like b3 because the position somehow seems like also it's not clear what black will do now. He doesn't really want to take on d1, I assume. Also queen e7 runs into knight d5 possibly. So yeah, it kind of now it's black's turn to come up with a useful move, and white just played b3, which looks useful, as we've seen that it somehow in many variations protects the pawn on c4.
Yeah. I mean, okay, now of course this is, we would say slightly more pleasant for white, just because of the queen side is we have basically more space. Yeah, we could say basically. So can we just go back before castle? So move 10 when Gukesh decided to castle. Would you just mind explaining, like, for example, for the eye, first move you look at is of course bishop e3, and like you said, Matthew, double pawns, and this looks tempting to play with black, but of course this should probably be very bad, because now, Felix, I guess, f-file is becoming very strong, and of course these two pawns I think these are kind of new style. Like, also I've seen it in many openings that you like to allow this kind of pawn structure just because you control all space in the center. Would you agree, Felix?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, usually I would say the structure arises with the pawn on c4 still being on d3. But I would guess, I mean, from a positional point, of course, it's quite ugly for white. But white gets a lot of dynamical chances, as you've also mentioned, on the f-file. Maybe at some point there will also be knight h4 to knight f5, especially if black castles short. So I think in this position, Black struggles to find like a constructive plan. He cannot really attack White's doubled pawns, only with this one knight, and this knight will probably have a hard time reaching c5. So it just seems like White has the much easier play here.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the move a5 actually is quite useful because it means that if a black knight comes to c5, White can achieve b4 much more easily. Now, if black had the pawn on a5, you might consider it. I think the other thing as well is that when you take on e3, f takes e3, and White's got the open f file. I mean, a typical idea would be for black, to move the knight round to c5 and then to play a move like f6, for example, at some stage just to block the f file. But now, when you've played the move h6, all these light squares here, f5, g6, h5 are very weak. This pawn on h6 doesn't fit well with this sort of structure where you're going to be attacking on the f file. So, yeah, I mean, the other thing as well is that, at some stage, White might play the knight to d5, and you might end up exchanging it and then getting rid of one of White's double pawns. So, it's yeah, I think probably that would not have been a good decision to take those pieces. Looks very ugly for White, but yeah, I think with this pawn on a5, probably quite important addition to White's position.
Yeah, I agree. I remember first time my opponent decided to let this pawn structure, not exactly this, but this kind of pawn structure, e4, e3, without any pawns around, and I was like, oh no, this must be so bad. You're like, I don't know what you're thinking, yeah. And then I go home, I analyze the game, I with Stockfish, Lila, and so on, and this is just by these new engines, the it structure, yeah, like they just love it, the engines, and that's when I understood that actually chess is becoming slightly more different than how it was when I was studying it at a younger age.
Yeah.
But of course, so I think the Gukesh still hasn't moved. So after castle takes b3 by Dink. Dink is feeling probably very confident. Like you said, that's probably very important. Regarding his confidence, as I think even before the match he gave some interview, and he looked, I mean, he sounded very pessimistic in a way. Like he said, yeah, I might just collapse during the match, or it might be okay, you never know, something like very pessimistic. I don't know, I heard that yesterday when I was, of course, everybody was congratulating Ding, and then I was also reading all these things that people were saying about him and publishing about him, and I mean, so far he looks confident. I think yesterday's game was very important for his future in the match.
Yeah. Also psychologically, he hasn't won a single classical game in quite a while. So this means that, I mean, hopefully it means that he will get his confidence back, which will be very, very important in this match.
Yeah. Well, he's a funny guy, because I mean, during the match against Jan, he was, sort of quite open about all his struggles during the match and everything. But somehow he's one of those people, and I think that's why he's become such a strong player. Who he does have, some struggles there with, I guess, with motivation. Of course, he's had health struggles as well, but just in general, I think, and mood and everything. But yeah, somehow he always manages to overcome it somehow. I mean, against Jan, he had his real up and down moments during the match, but at the end of it, he was, calculating like a monster and winning the match. So, yeah, this sounded, I mean, he's sort of, he's quite a strange hero somehow. A hero with a lot of vulnerabilities and open about it, but also somehow incredibly strong at getting past things. And I think that really is something that's very important. I think that's the only way that you become a world champion somehow, because becoming a world champion, it's not about just winning the easy games. It's about coming through a lot of incredibly difficult challenges. And I mean, Gukesh is another example of somebody who, in the candidates, for example, he loses this game against Firouzja, and then the next day he's just coming back and winning. I always remember Magnus Carlsen it was 2013 candidates in London. He lost this terrible game against Ivanchuk, and then he ground down Rajabov from a slightly worse position as black in 100 moves, and those are the real characters. And Ding's got it in a very strange way. He has all his vulnerabilities much more in the open, but yeah, he overcomes them all the time. So and somehow it feels like he's going to do this. Like he's got himself together for this big event somehow. So I mean, it's really brilliant. It's really. I'm just thinking about the position actually. I mean, Gukesh has got quite a big decision, I guess. Yeah, I mean, he's got to decide: is he going to exchange off the queens, or is he going to do something else? But I think if he's exchanged off the queens, then we're going to take with the rook, and then I guess we're going to sort of maneuver a little bit. Play the knight to e1, play the pawn to. Oh, he's taken.
Oh, he's taken. Yeah.
So we're going to play the knight to e1, pawn to f3, just to support the pawn on e4. And then afterwards, we can start thinking about moving this knight from c3. And the big advantage, as Felix pointed out, to the pawn structure, having the pawn on a5 here, is that white can play c2 to c3 to stop black from coming in e4. And it's no problem at all for the structure. But if black plays c6, then it's horrific, right? I mean, the dark squares are terrible. So, yeah, I mean, that's quite interesting. And yeah, Gukesh is playing rook ad8 now. I think he should. I think Gukesh is going to try to do something quickly somehow. He's not going to try, and he wants. If he's going to achieve something, it's before white gets the setup. His setup with knight e1 and f3, and he's got to get some little gain back before white gets his structure. And obviously, by playing the rook to d8, you're kind of looking at playing a rook takes d1, for example, because obviously knight d1 would lose the e pawn, and rook d1 might lose the a pawn. You're not quite sure about that. But I mean, certainly it's sort of prophylaxis, I think, against knight e1, because if knight e1, you can take on d1, and after rook one, you can go knight a5, and white's no longer attacking the e5 pawn. So from that point of view, I think it's prophylaxis against that plan.
I'm just wondering, in the current live position, can white also try to play very concretely by going knight d5? Would that be an option as well?
Okay. Okay, swap the e pawn for the c pawn.
Exactly,
maybe.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this just now. And if knight takes e4, I was intending even rook e1 first to win.
Yeah, f5 and then knight c7. Oh, and then the fork on e6, and oh, that actually looks very nice.
So after 94, Felix, you said what?
I said rook e1 first, probably.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you go knight takes e7 first, then black could take on d1 and then maybe on a5, even though that's also not entirely clear.
True.
Because then probably e5 is falling as well, but...
Agreed.
But I just liked rook e1 first to attack the knight, and probably forcing f5 and then knight c7.
Interesting.
Yeah, maybe you could play, or could you play knight f6 after rook e1? And if knight takes c7, we go rook d7. That might be a way of swapping everything off. Maybe.
So I guess I have to go back, right? I don't have a choice. Knight d5, in this point.
Yeah, we just take off, and we're pawn up then.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, knight f6 is strong, yeah, that looks good. So maybe without rook e1, maybe knight takes e7 right away.
I'm a bit nervous about knight c3 then, though, actually.
Now, immediately?
Yeah, so knight d5, knight e4, knight c7, and then knight c3.
Yeah, okay.
But I don't want to stop the knight getting back in in the other way as well. And I'm threatening rook d, if you move the rook off the d file, I'm threatening rook d7.
Yeah,
and
again.
that knight on c3 kind of paralyzes somehow.
Yeah. And if I go something like rook d3, this looks just like bad for the structure, yeah?
I think I just take it and go rook d8, I think. I think it's looking quite decent somehow.
This knight on c7
so we need,
is stuck.
we need something something subtle here. Could we do that? Maybe what we can do, all the same, is to go play the move knight e1 still.
Immediately in the original
Italy,
position?
Yeah, so move 14. So after rook a d8, we go knight e1. And then
Wow.
if we go rook takes d1, rook takes d1, knight a5, we go
Okay.
knight d3, and we're forking c5 and e5. And of
Rook,
course that
yeah.
b3 move is turning out to be quite useful.
But if rook
Black-
d1, you said rook d1, knight a5, knight d3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then if I
Then-
protect with knight d7, am I
Yeah.
losing?
Now I'm hoping, hoping that there's something like knight f4 somehow, maybe, or
Knight f4.
I just want to, because maybe I'm getting some attack there. Because knight f4, if you go knight f6, okay, I can do a draw by repetition, but I can also play knight fd5. That's the idea.
Ah.
I'm just trying to get into the 7th rank and claim there's something or other. I'm not sure about it. It's quite it is quite, I mean, it's the sort of thing where you sort of say maybe black can just sort of hold stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, maybe, but maybe knight takes d5. Maybe I'm just taking. Am I taking with the e pawn, maybe, or something? I'm trying to.
You would take
trying
it
to.
with the pawn.
Well, because if rook takes d5, I'm sort of thinking that probably knight c6 is fine for black. You know,
Yeah.
because you've got knight d4 later as well. I mean, rook c5. We'll have knight d5, I suppose, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sort of a bit dubious that this is really going to be fine. Now, I mean, I'll go rook c8 and king f8, e8, d7, and protect something. But I'm just wondering whether after knight takes d5, instead of taking with the rook on d5
Yeah.
or knight, whether I could take with the pawn and then try and claim that your knight on a5 is out of the way.
Oh, okay.
No, because b6, I want to go d6. That's the idea. If you see what I mean. So,
and if
so
I go rook d8 first, just
rook d8 first, that would be better.
maybe knight e4, but then b6.
Yeah. Can I go rook e1 maybe? And if f6, go f4?
So aggressive.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just I'm trying to work out why this move b3 is such genius. That's the thing.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I simply, obviously it's not my pieces, so it's easier to do. But it feels like that there might be some chances for some initiative somewhere, in this endgame, and
Okay, fun thing. Apparently, this exact position was analyzed last night online.
oh no.
Did Ding's analysis get leaked again, or?
I mean, I don't know. Somebody in chat said that. According to the Howell commentary. Okay. I guess on ChessBase you can see when somebody analyzes something online. So
I mean, it shouldn't be. Why would people use ChessBase engines to analyze their stuff? It doesn't make any sense at all.
yeah.
I mean, it
it's
doesn't have to be
weird.
Ding, of course. It could be someone else, but this is a bit coincidental somehow, yeah.
Yeah.
Again. Okay, but yesterday, I guess at least I guess that's fine, yeah. But it
it might not be the only thing. I think that's always the fear. It might not be the only opening that's been looked at like that, but.
And
yeah.
the move in the position was rook e1. Maybe in the chat, so that in the instead of knight e1, it was rook e1.
Rook e1. Oh,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I understand correctly, but could that be possible instead of?
No. Rook e1 wouldn't make any sense
wouldn't.
on move 14. You
Yeah.
mean? Wouldn't make any sense. No. So.
Yeah, I guess maybe in different position, maybe not this one. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that that knight e1 would be kind of the thing. Oh, wait, the clock's gone a bit weird.
Oh, yeah. I shall refresh it.
Wouldn't be a bad idea to get rid of those arrows anyway. So. So I think Ding's thinking now, which is kind of surprising, actually.
Yeah, Ding is thinking after rook d8.
On the other hand, you know, he can never be sure which line Gukesh would choose. So, I mean, it's you sort of assume that that people have got perfect memory somehow. But yeah, I mean, if you're a bit honest, your own experiences of of trying to remember your analysis at the board are not always very positive. It's, I mean, even in my days of professional pre-computer age, it was tough. So, I mean. It's just ridiculous nowadays what people have to remember.
Yeah, so many lines to remember. I do not want to get into it. It's like, for me, worst part of chess is remembering all the opening files. And I can't imagine how many files you have to check for World Championship. And what is move rook dc1?
Yeah, I also cannot believe my eyes. But
What? This is almost like rook e1. It's very similar.
dc1. Yeah, this was Leela's third most probable move. Knight e1, I'm just looking at it now. Knight e1 had a 66.7% chance of being the best move in the position. Wow. King f1 had a 20% chance, and rook dc1 has a 5% chance of having been the best move in the position.
Okay, so knight e1 was actually the top pick, right?
Knight e1 actually ended up being the top move, yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay.
So
very nice. But yeah, so, if you don't know, you don't play knight e1 just from your head. Yeah, you have to calculate a lot this endgame.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I am surprised, but maybe he's wondering whether Gukesh has got some knowledge of it somehow, and he's just chosen a secondary line because rook dc1. But okay, I mean it's just a slightly slower move, right? But the plan I think will be the same, probably. Although knight e1 now you'll have rook d2 at some stage. So, but okay, so what? What is Black going to do here? I mean, the most natural thing for me, to be honest, would be to try and protect the e5 pawn somehow. Well, the most natural thing I think for me would be to try and make something like knight d4 work quickly, you know, or knight b4, you know, try and get the pieces active somehow. If that doesn't work, then I'd be looking to do some sort of redeployment of my knight on f6 to make sure I can defend the e pawn with something like the f pawn. You know, that would seem to be those would be the things I'd look at the most. And I kind of assumed that I've got a bit more time now because of White's slow move, a rook dc1. I mean, actually, could you just play knight d4 in this position? What would be wrong with knight d4?
Let's check. I put it
this,
on the board.
This rook dc1. It's put the you know the king and the rook on the fork on e2 somehow. So you're kind of getting tempted.
So let's say knight takes e5. Let's say I accept your challenge.
Oh.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm slightly wondering about knight takes e4 here.
Yeah, that's of course one thing. Yeah, knight e4, knight e4, and knight e2. Yeah.
Yeah, knight e2, and then I take, and then I pin you with rook e8.
Beautiful. Yeah.
That looks. I mean.
That looks
F4,
pretty good.
F6, yeah. This I don't see it. And I mean something. Knight takes e5, rook e5, knight b7. I've got rook b8. I'm actually trapping that. Trapping that knight. So I mean,
yeah.
I'm.
No spares.
Yeah, that's an important.
You know, that's sort of an important point. I think. Otherwise, you might be able to claim. But I don't see after rook f8. I don't see anything for White here, and there should be something. F4, f6.
You think there should be?
Well, no. If this was going to be good for White, there would be something. That's what I mean. But I mean, you could maybe. Nah, it's too crazy. I was thinking of going knight c6 and then b takes c6, knight takes d5, and trying to claim that I've got a big long term. But okay, if we do that, then I will claim that I'm a genius. But,
it's a nice idea.
So something like that might be in the position sometime, but I don't think it's working.
But you know, after knight c1, we don't have to take the knight immediately. That's also a thing, yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah.
That's cute.
Let's have a look at that.
Yeah.
But rook d1 for now is kind of a big threat. Maybe knight c3 back.
C3.
Let's see. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that would be a move.
And now after something like rook e8, I guess just knight f3, I guess, or
Yeah, we can do it.
or knight g4, maybe even. No, knight f3 is maybe, I don't know.
Knight f3 is
Yeah.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that
Wow.
was not me. That was somebody in the chat. So I don't take any credit, please. But no, that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
If
that's beautiful.
knight c3 works, that's
Yeah. No, and you just the knights on c3 and f3. They're perfect, right? They're covering everything. I'm looking at all sorts of knight sacks or anything, but you can't get into the white position at all.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. The two knights are just dominating.
Wow, that is very deep. Okay, so yeah.
So I cannot go
Kind of
knight
assuming
d4.
then but okay, what if I went then maybe we can reverse it and after knight takes e4, we don't give a check on e2, we just go rook f e8 maybe.
Okay.
Can we do that? Can we do that? I could maybe, yeah. Actually, maybe I could go rook f e8.
Yeah.
Straight. Well, okay. Let's just see. Let's just see this one. It's actually this is quite complicated. I have to say, if I was having this as black, I'd be really. You can easily spend lots and lots of time on this, you know. And
Yeah.
thing is, I'm yeah. What? It feels like it should be. I mean, intuitively, I would say surely I'm fine with black here, but I mean, I've got 92 check threats and all of this and these two knights on the e file somehow. But
no, rook f8 is
the point is if you go f4,
Yeah.
you know, also I want to go 92 check takes f4. That's the idea.
Oh.
If I can do it, I'm wondering now whether I can do it because you might be able to go king f2, king f3 actually. So after 92 check, we go king.
Yeah. Sorry, no, you
King
cannot
f2,
take.
and
But
then
you
after
go
knight f4, I go king f3. I think. I don't think I can avoid. I can't avoid sort of having my knight exchanged. I think king f2, knight f4.
This is very. Yeah, this is
It's
a bit
horrifically
too
complicated.
Much,
This,
yeah?
But after king f2 now, maybe you can take on c1, right? Because now the knight will probably not be trapped anymore.
That is true.
Why is this so confusing? Yes, but I think you're right. Even
because before we had knight c3 back, but here there's rook d2 check. So
yeah, but still, like, can I go knight c5 or something?
Yeah, I've got rook d2 takes c2.
Yeah, but then knight king e1, king d1. Then of course you have rook 8. No, you don't have. What do you have?
Wow, yeah, this is bananas somehow. It's
You have knight b3. Okay, so let's just go knight c5, rook d2, king e1, rook c2, king d1, knight b3. Takes, knight a1, king b2.
yeah, but I think you must. Yeah, black must be fine in this sort of position with rook against knight somehow.
Yeah, f6, I guess.
You would have thought that with the pawn spread out and all that, and black can play b6, liquidate some of the queen side.
Not. Yeah. Okay. This is.
Okay. So it's. But maybe if we go back to move 15, after knight takes c5, and just try and play rook f8 straight away, and then see.
I was also about to suggest that. Yeah, that looks also very logical.
That might be the. I mean, I'm just amazed somehow that this is so complicated, but.
After f4, knight takes e4, knight takes e4, knight e2, we're back in the same crazy line.
Yeah. But we can play knight d3, I guess, can't we?
Yeah, we should, right? But again, knight e4.
Yeah, knight takes e4. knight d3, knight takes c4, then we take on e4, and then knight e2 check is kind of crucial.
Yeah.
King f1, knight takes c1.
And
That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good, doesn't it? I mean, if we go knight d3, knight e4, we go knight e4 now, knight e2, king f1, knight c1, because we're attacking this this knight on d3 somehow.
yeah.
So that should be quite quite decent somehow. I mean, you could make a claim because the king's on f1 now, so it's stopping anything coming. You could make a claim for knight c5 in this position, and then something like b4. No, rook d4 afterwards. No, I think no, that wouldn't work. So I think this one looks fine to me.
For black, yeah.
For black, yeah, this one looks fine to me, I think. So maybe we have to, yeah, okay. So maybe we play 16 f4 then. That's the
Oh, that looks.
we play f4. And what I was wondering about, to be honest, was to play g5 actually. Originally.
I had the same idea as well. Yeah, that's a very typical way of breaking the structure. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you go g3, because the rooks on c1 and a1 look really stupid somehow, right? I mean, you know, it does feel a bit odd. But so g5, g3, I could take and go knight h5 maybe, you know, and just try and break things up like that somehow.
And probably one important point is that after knight d3, I assume there's knight takes b3, right?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good
probably
one.
important, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a very good one.
Oh yeah, that's cute. Who would think that position without queens and without bishops would have so much dynamic play? Yeah?
Yeah, no, it's true. It's the point is, of course, is that we sort of feel that long term White's better somehow, yeah. And if he can just organize himself, then it's going to be difficult for Black. So but we really feel that, especially after a move like Rook DC1, that there's that window of opportunity where White's a bit passive, Black's got the chance to try and make some gains, you know, get some extra little bits of comfort before White organizes himself, you know, to make the resulting position more comfortable. And yeah, but somehow, yeah, bizarrely enough, the it's all really complicated and really tight somehow, you know. But I do think that Black, you know, I do think that knight d4. I can't believe that knight d4 would not be a good move for Black, you know.
Yeah,
I suppose.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose one thing you could maybe say is that, you know, after knight d4, maybe White can then play his knight e1 again. Because by playing knight d4, you've blocked the entry point into d2. So, you know, you were thinking before, oh, I'm not sure about knight e1 because Black can go rook d2, although that's not 100% clear, but that was sort of my feeling. But when you go knight d4, now we play knight e1. And then we're going to threaten f3 and king f2 and, you know, all of our stuff, basically.
I think that already happened in the game, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh.
I think knight d4, knight d1 is on the board.
Are you sure?
It looks like to me.
Because I'm watching the broadcast, not in the one that we're doing, because this is basically an analysis window. I put it on the board. Maybe you're confused. But
okay, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, because it happens sometimes. But I think if I'm watching correctly, Dink has played still Rook DC1, and he has 1 hour 46 minutes. Wait, I will go back to the live position that we think is a live position, which is this. Yeah, it has 1 hour 46 minutes, and Gukesh is down to 1 hour and 12 minutes. I will refresh the broadcast. Yeah,
wow,
so
he's thinking a lot here. But okay, I mean, I think we understand why he's thinking a lot. Yeah, it's
yeah.
this is not a nice thing to have to work out. I have to say, it really is not.
Yeah, But
all that tactical ingenuity just to make sure that you get some sort of equality. You know, it's just you feel it's such a waste. You know.
yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree, and especially after yesterday's game, what do you think? Do you think he would like to have a draw, or do you think he will try to come back immediately? Psychologically, what's the better option? To consolidate or just go hard again?
I mean,
Yeah,
I
sorry.
was it a question to Matthew?
So,
I think he has way
To
more
Felix,
experience.
I think to you as well,
Okay.
Felix. Go for
sorry,
it.
yeah, I should start saying names. Yeah, I'm very bad host. I'm so sorry. First,
Just say young
Matthew.
one and old one, and then we'll definitely know who you're
I'm so
talking about.
sorry. No, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. No, Matthew, of course, I want to know both of your opinions, but first, Matthew, if you, I would like yours. What do
Oh,
you think is better?
Yeah,
Sure.
I think you take what you can, right? And I think that I mean, Gukesh is just able to he's one of those players who can win pretty much any position, right? He just keeps on going, and so you know. But I think for a world championship match, when you're playing people who are super well prepared, you take what you get. If you have to make a draw, then you have to make a draw, and and then you'll try the next game. I think at the current moment, he would very happily take a draw offer and and go back home.
Okay. And Felix, what do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good to consolidate after a loss, especially if it's with the white pieces. But it's very, very hard psychologically because most people have this, this need to fight back after a loss, including myself, probably
Yeah.
most chess players. But if you have this feeling and then just overdo it, just trying to win and trying to win, at some point it can backfire. And then losing one game is one thing, but losing another one after that is a whole other thing. So I like this old Russian way of consolidating. I think Botvinnik was the first one who was talking about it. If you lose one game, you should just make a draw and just forget about it, basically, like this.
Yeah. I like that style more. Yeah, to consolidate, to stop the bleeding. Yeah, we would say.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how Gukesh is psychologically prepared. Like I feel like knowing both players, I feel like this is a great position for both of them. They're both very good calculators, right? And are more of a strategic players. So they do enjoy. I think, at least in my experience, Gukesh loves his endgames, and I feel like Dink is pretty good at them as well. Would you say so, Matthew?
Oh, Ding's a fantastic player in
course,
the endgame.
overall.
I mentioned it yesterday on my stream, but it was there's a book that was brought out about him. I think it was by Kulisevich, I think it was, and it was Ding's best games. And I didn't know so much about Ding, but just a few of the most brilliant ones. But you look at the games that he's played over his career, and it's amazing. I mean, really, just the level, the end games, the whole set of skills. It was just absolutely incredible. I mean, you really do feel that at his peak, he's I don't know, maybe he's even one of the strongest players that's been somehow. Yeah, at his peak, he's obviously he has more problems than someone like Magnus, I think, to reach that peak consistently. But really, I mean, the skills displayed were absolutely amazing. So. From that point of view, I do think that a Ding in form does have a slight playing edge over Gukesh somehow. Yeah? But where Gukesh's edge is, I think, is in his mentality, which is absolutely amazing, and we've seen it time and time again. The real Magnus mentality, I think you'd say, that a loss doesn't bother him at all. He just comes back and fights like a lunatic the next day. I mean, I think one of the first ones I saw about Gukesh was it wasn't the last Olympiad, the Olympiad before, but he was playing fantastically, and then he was winning against one of the players. Abu Tasarov, I can't pronounce his name properly. Terrible, but he lost this game, lost track of it and got swindled. Terrible loss, and mostly in Olympiads, when players lose a game, they get rested. But he just turned up, played the next game as black, and held a draw, you know, with as if nothing had happened. It was maybe one of the most disappointing games he could ever have had in his career. And yet, you know, he made a draw against Keimer, I think it was, you know, without any trouble whatsoever. And that sort of mentality you can't buy, really. You know, it's either part of you, or it's not. And you know, that is really his biggest edge in this match, I think, because obviously Ding has that capability, but it cost him a lot more effort, I think, to get that toughness and that mentality. Whereas for someone like Gukesh, you feel it's much more, you know, naturally part of him. You know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I don't think Gukesh is going to be enjoying this position, right? As black, I think it's not a nice position to be in with black, especially with Ding having played, you know, pretty fast and obviously knows the general outline of the position quite nicely. And this move, Rook DC1, is a very subtle move. It's not a move that you come up with just like that, the board, I think. So, yeah.
Absolutely
I mean,
agree. Yeah.
I was checking, just checking Leela again, just now, and I'm quite interested to see that what Leela was recommending was, well, knight d4, knight e1,
Yeah.
but then the move g5,
What?
and well, the idea being that after f3, Leela wants to play the move g4. I mean, it's really dynamic, right?
Wow. Yeah.
The idea being that you know, if you take on g4, for example, which is kind of possible, but you know, you're going to be looking for stuff like f5 later as well. But I just thought it was interesting. I don't know whether I'd be able to play like that myself, but I just thought it was interesting that that you know, the modern engines, what they're really good at is spotting danger early. You know, they really, if they see that the position's in danger of becoming passive, they're always very good nowadays at saying, okay, we need to take action, we need to start shaking things up, we need to start creating weaknesses, all of that. And the fact that Leela's actually sort of saying this is absolutely what needs to be done, we need to start breaking stuff up, makes you think that there's a lot of latent danger for Gukesh here if he doesn't actually, if he just sort of you know, makes some quiet consolidating moves here. So I think it's possibly a very important moment, I think, that you've really got to try and start making things happen with black, which is tough.
This G5 idea is fantastic. Like I didn't even consider it, but now that I look at it, it looks actually pretty cool for black to play like this. Because once you play G5, you have to worry about the weakness of the F5 square. But here in this particular position, it probably doesn't really matter, because first of all, the knight will not come to F5, and for now also the knight to D4 is beautifully controlling this square as well. So yeah. I only see advantages of this pawn push.
Yeah, and the nice thing is what Felix pointed out actually, yeah, that when you, for example, in something like this, let's say takes, I'm not 100% sure, but you know, black can play something with knight h5 and f5, and the tactic that Felix pointed out is absolutely crucial here. Knight d3, we've got knight b3. So you know, so it just means that that white's just that little bit slower somehow. That there's black's got a little bit more time than you'd think to create some counterplay with something like f5. And but I don't know about you, Felix, but those are kind of the things I always found really difficult. Found very difficult to be calculating properly. You know, all those little details somehow that speed you up a little bit. You know, because if you don't have that knight b3 tactic, then it just looks bad for black, right? You just think, you know, this guy can't play endgames, right? He's just causing weaknesses and playing and attacking as if it was a middle game. But the fact that white can't play the move knight d3 means that black is going to be quick with f5, and then the f3 pawn is going to be weak, something like that. You know, or you can play the knight to f4, you know, and you know, start creating things. So, but I think that's very hard. Yeah, that's exactly the type of thing that I found very hard to, you know, to sort of link up and think about it, because you're just thinking, I'm just creating lots of weaknesses. It can't be good, but yeah, it can be good just on that thin line of tactics, you know. So,
yeah, it's quite hard to, especially if you have that feeling that you never want to commit any like big positional mistakes, you could even put it like this. But as you said, Matthew, in some cases you just have the dynamics, but it's very hard to figure that out in which cases do the dynamics work and in which they don't. So that's something I think many chess players struggle with.
Yeah, and of course, if it all goes wrong as well, you look so stupid, right? Everyone will
Exactly,
say,
yeah,
G5,
yeah,
why did you
yeah.
play G5? Yeah, can't play endgames, you know, it's one of the terrible things about competition in general. It's you try things and sometimes you're that close to getting them working, but they don't work and you end up looking stupid, you know. And it's a very tough thing about competition. Actually, it's one of the biggest differences I think between competition and the normal working world somehow. In work, you very rarely, in a normal job, you rarely have those sort of situations where, you know, where you can end up looking so stupid, you know, just by yourself. But in chess and competition in general, it can happen all the time somehow, you know. So, but yeah, I mean, this is really fascinating. But how much time has Gukesh got left now?
Yeah, this is what I wanted to talk about because Gukesh, I will just refresh the board so everybody can see the live position. Gukesh actually is down to 1 hour, while Ding has 1 hour and 46 minutes. There's 46-minute difference between white and black right now, and it's move 14. Can we talk about that? That's slightly concerning, no? Or no? Felix, do you think this? I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like yesterday, we saw how Ding was spending so much time in the opening, but at the end, it worked out because he was figuring out the position, and when he figured it out, then he played move after move after move after move, and then Gukesh was slowing down and slowing down, like Matthew said before, and suddenly Gukesh, you know, he played the last move, 40th move, on 1 second.
Really, I didn't even see that.
Oh.
Yes, 1 second. So, and there's no 30-second increment, you know. So if it was move 39, it would have been done game, which I think is insane. So I actually I didn't expect that, but Gukesh is, I mean, I didn't know that, but I think he's gonna be getting in a lot of time troubles. I didn't find him as a time trouble guy. I don't know, Felix, I don't know. Do you think he's usually getting the time troubles? Not really, right?
I think he likes to think overall, but my impression, at least before the match, was that he had it somewhat under control. But now that I hear about what happened yesterday, yeah, that's quite shocking, and I really hope for him that this won't happen in the rest of the games, because it's simply not. Yeah,
I mean,
nothing good comes from this. It's,
yeah.
It's easier said than done, of course. Time management is always something almost everyone struggles with, and it's very hard. But yeah, you just need to speed up, as stupid as it may sound. Yeah.
Are we? Everybody here is time trouble lover in this commentary booth. Felix, do you like time troubles, or do you usually get into them?
I absolutely hate it, but in many cases I don't have a choice. I just end up there somehow.
Yeah, and Matthew, you as well, right?
Yeah, well, when I was professional, I was in time trouble all the time. Actually, when I came back into playing chess, I had, I think, my first episode of time trouble, and I just decided I can't do it anymore. I don't have the nerves for it. So actually my time handling improved because I absolutely needed to. And I think the point was, you know, when I was professional, I made a few attempts to improve, but actually I didn't really believe that it was affecting my game somehow. Yeah. I thought, you know, I just by getting into good positions, you know, it wins me more points than it lost. I only managed to really change it when, you know, I realized that as an older player, I couldn't cope with the tension anymore, you know, and it was actually costing me points. So, yeah, I think in general it's not good, but I think you know, it's not always an absolute catastrophe, you know. But as soon as you feel that you don't have the nerves to deal with it, then yeah, then you have to do something about it.
Yeah, I can relate to that very much. Me as well. I like time troubles, and whenever I get into them, I talk to myself like, Laura, really, like, well, at some point, you know, you're gonna get a heart attack just from being in a time trouble.
Yeah.
Like, why am I doing this to my my nervous system, you know? It's like I like to suffer, but it's terrible, I agree, and we should all get rid of it. And Gukesh also played a move, so he's listening to to his heart
He
as
played
well.
knight d4.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just he's played knight d4 now, so we'll see what happens. I mean, I was actually just wondering about knight b4. In actual fact, you know, we mentioned it. We mentioned it before, but it was actually, you know, because the point is that you're not allowing white this knight e1 maybe because you've got rook d2. You know, so actually wondered whether knight b4 might also have been an interesting move to try there, but. Because I'm trying to think what would white actually be doing against knight b4. I'm not really quite sure about it. But okay, anyway, Gukesh has played knight e4, so we'll move
be.
along with we'll move along with that.
Somebody in the chat, maybe it was an engine suggestion or something, also suggested instead of knight d4, rook d4 would be an interesting sacrifice.
Wowsies!
I don't know if they were looking at the engine or not, I'm not sure, but I thought that was a very interesting move to consider if it works. I don't know if it works though. Maybe we should check the evaluation bar.
That's quite something, yeah.
Okay, I don't think it works. It says +1/6.
Yeah, no, it's not going to work, but it's a nice thought, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, full marks for candidate move generation, because that didn't even cross my my mind, that one.
Yeah. This one would be interesting if it worked, but this position apparently doesn't work, and I'm just gonna trust the engine when it says it doesn't work. So yeah, knight d4 is on the board, exactly what we were saying just a few minutes before, and I guess knight e1 looks very healthy. Is anything else looking good?
No, I don't think so. I mean, you're threatening knight takes f3 most likely, yeah. So I don't think, and yeah, either you take on e5 or you go knight e1. But I don't think knight e5 is a really serious attempt, really. I think you know, I think knight e1 is the serious attempt.
I agree.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now that we analyzed everything, I think we deserve our first break. We have everything predicted in the future, so I guess we're predicting 91, and hopefully after the break we'll already see the move by Dink. So guys, stay tuned, we'll be back in a few minutes. Hello, welcome back to the official Lichess broadcast for the World Championship between Ding Liren and Gukesh D. Ding is playing white today and has quite an amazing time advantage. But however, let's go back how we left the position, because we actually analyzed 91, and 91 was also played by Ding while we were on a break, so good job, guys, good job. But what is surprising is Gukesh's response, right? What is Rook d6?
Yeah, I was just talking with Matthew during the break because we just couldn't talk about we couldn't stop talking about the game. I mean, our explanation was that Gukesh simply wants to double the rooks on the d file, so that knight d3 will probably never be an issue, because there will always be things like knight takes b3 still, or even knight takes c2 after knight d3. And yeah, it seems like Gukesh just wants to play for the full control of the d file and keeps his option open to maybe play on the king side later on.
Okay, that makes sense. However, we did really like the g5 idea, but like Matthew, you said it's a hard idea to spot, yeah? Or you, even if you spot it, you never know if it's actually good.
Yeah, I wouldn't have, I wouldn't have played. We were looking at the, the engine recommendations, and actually, I think again at this move, the engines are recommending either G5 or H5, so some sort of kingside play like that. Whereas, to be honest, if what I might have, if I was playing this practically, what I might have come up with was, something with G6 and then F5. That's something that I might have thought of, but I don't think that G5 or H5 would ever particularly have come in my horizon, to be honest. So, yeah, I mean, I think what Gukesh is doing is kind of sensible there. Just to try and grab the D file and then sort of ask White, well, okay, how are you going to make any progress here? I was a little bit surprised with Gukesh, with Ding's last move, which was King F1. Was kind of expecting F3 somehow to protect E4 and start getting on there. But I guess that Ding's just being a little bit cautious here, and yeah, just well, maybe he's got some ideas that he could play something with Knight D5 quickly, or at some stage or whatever. I'm not quite sure about King F1. It's a decent move, but I couldn't really see any reason not to play F3 somehow. But
I agree. Yeah, I agree. F3 looked very logical, and there was one plan which Matthew pointed out before, which was yeah, I was very delighted to see it, because as I said before, Knight D3 will always fail to Knight C2 or Knight B3. And I was looking with Matthew at the very logical move Rook D8, King F2, and here Matthew pointed out this, to me, a very nice plan with Knight A4 followed by Knight B2 and then Knight D3, just to avoid all these tactical ideas with Knight B3 and Knight C2. And once the Knight would be on D3, at least it's attacking both of these pawns, especially the weakness on C5. So I really like this one plan by Matthew. I think it's quite instructive as well.
This is very nice. This is very nice strategical maneuver with the Knight. However, yeah, it looks logical, but something must have bothered Ding, or... Okay, I guess playing King F1 is safe because Knight E2 will never be an option anymore, yeah?
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, you're avoiding opening the second rank, right? So, I mean, I'm wondering whether it's, sometimes it's good to let the opponent make the mistakes himself somehow, and maybe Ding's just saying, well, I think I've got a reasonable amount of time in the position, so I'm just going to play a good move, King F1, which stops Knight E2, so lots of tactics disappear out of the way. I'm not going to open the second rank, and then I'm just going to see whether Black does anything, comes up with anything crazy by himself somehow. And well, actually, Gukesh has played the human move. I think this is a very natural human move, G6 he's played now, so preparing a later F5 somehow.
Yeah.
I was just thinking maybe Ding didn't want to play F3 because he was really afraid of G5. I mean, this could be a thing, because we thought about G5 right away instead of Rook D6, but here I was thinking White doesn't even have to go F3 yet. So maybe this was also Gukesh's idea. Once F3 is on the board, then G5, G4 could happen. Maybe this was something Ding might have been thinking about. Just one.
Could be. Yeah, could be. it's we've got to find a plan for white though now. I'm just I kind of, I mean, f3 seems so like the move you really want to play, but I don't know whether you could, I don't know whether you could you could do anything else really, but I wouldn't have thought so really.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I suppose you could play. I mean, you could play a move like Rook B1, I suppose, right? Because I'm sort of threatening Knight D3 then. I think because after Knight D3, you've no longer got Knight takes B3 because I've got Rook takes B3, and if you go Knight takes C2, then I go Knight takes C5, and I'm attacking B7 as well. So it looks a bit odd, but you might be able to do it. If you don't want to play f3 yet.
Okay.
Because it's kind of, yeah, that's maybe kind of interesting. Although I'm sort of, I don't know. Let's just have a look. Rook B1. Well, if I just played Rook FD8. For example,
are we talking about position after King F1 or before King F1?
Yeah, after King F1. So King F1 G6. We're talking about in the main position at the moment.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
G6, and then so I go Rook AB1 on move 17 just to protect B3. And then Rook FD8. Then I go Knight D3, and I'm just trying to claim that I can hit those C5 and E5 pawns. I mean, you could do something like Knight takes C2, Knight takes C5, and Rook D2 maybe. Could be interesting because I've got Knight G4s coming in to the king side. I don't know whether that's dangerous or scary. It might be.
Yeah, that's a bad part of not playing f3, I guess. We wouldn't have these problems if we had f3. Just saying.
Yeah, I wonder whether Ding, you know, it could well be that Ding's prepared these types of positions. He's just sort of decided that that if he can do without f3, I mean, you could play h3 instead of f3, just if you think it's useful, just to avoid any problem like that. I mean, you know, a move like h3 might be possible. I get the feeling that Ding's still got quite, you know, some sort of decent knowledge about what these type of positions are like, some general schemes, and maybe he's decided that that avoiding f3 is the way to go.
Yeah, somebody pointed out in the chat, which is making sense. Rook b2 here would be a normal move, yeah. Rook b2, Knight b4, I guess. But I guess Black is doing perfectly fine, yeah.
Rook b2.
I don't know. Somebody pointed out, but it makes is it running into some tactic like Knight e3 maybe?
Knight e3 check, yeah, is what I was thinking.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just show that. Whoopla. So yeah, Rook b2 here is sadly not working. So yeah, Black is just it looks like Black is coming into White's territory. So I don't think we want that exactly, right?
No.
So I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe Knight d3 is a bit earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe we can prepare it by something.
I mean, yeah, maybe we can play Rook b2. How about that?
Okay.
It's just all seeming a little bit ridiculous, really. But could play Rook b2 here, and just with the idea of playing Knight d3, yeah. Because if Knight takes c2, I go Knight takes d5, and then I'm already attacking the Knight with a couple of things.
Yeah, that's a nice idea.
Okay. Yeah. So let's say like Black just plays something like this. After Knight c2, we just go Knight d5.
Knight c2, we go Knight takes c5, actually.
Oh, Knight takes e5, sorry. Yeah, okay, Knight takes e5.
Because I'm threatening Knight b7, forking the rooks as well. So, you know, that's quite That's quite nice. That should probably work out fine somehow for white.
Okay, yeah. So rook b2 looks
I'm
like a
feeling
good.
like quite a serious chess player somehow. Suggesting this, it doesn't feel. It feels very odd. Yeah,
Yeah, it
I
does.
wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it in a game. I'd just be looking at f3 straight away somehow. But
Yeah.
I really get the strong feeling that that Ding is doing anything to avoid playing f3. And yeah, who knows? Might be based on most likely based on some
Yeah.
quite deep analysis somehow.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if this is the plan, it's so weird to play first rook a b1 and then rook b2, just like basically trapping your rook on the b2 square. It looks so
Yeah.
anti-chess.
But I think the point is, if you do manage to get in knight d3, then it's quite significant. I think because you're attacking e5 and c5, and black's going to have to, dedicate a piece to defending it. And yeah, if the knight is coming to d7 somehow, it's blocking the d file. So and it's also giving white then the chance of playing knight d5 and then c3. And I guess that a rook on the b file, would be supporting b3 to b4 as well. This break, so it makes some sense, but it just feels a bit weird. Yeah, again, it's not something I'd ever think about in a chess game. I'm just trying to make sense of what Ding is doing, but yeah, it's probably not.
Yeah.
Not the way exactly, but you got yeah. I mean, the other thing would be whether whether black's going to give some opportunity somewhere to for white to play a quick knight d5 or something, but the point is with yeah. Thing is, we after a knight d5, you've got knight takes e4, and then knight d2 check, and then knight e2 check, as a follow up is threatened. So it's kind of hard to find much more way. I mean, either white goes f3 and frees this knight on c3, and then it can move to d5 or to a4, or you're going to do something a bit more exotic somehow, and I don't really know which one. I mean, I'd much rather play f3, but
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, I do wonder what Ding's plan is. I mean, he was thinking for like 20 minutes. No.
A long time, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, or maybe not even. Yeah, he spent a lot of time for 91, so he spent like 15 minutes on 91, and then on king f1 he spent like a few minutes actually. So I guess he was planning ahead. What's his plan? I guess it looks safer to him. We can't blame him. But can you just explain? So Łukasz did play g6. What's actually the idea behind g6 after playing rook d6, and now you go g6? So what's the plan? What is Łukasz thinking? To go rook d8 the next move, or he wants to maybe move the knight and go f5? What could be his plan?
I would say that f5 is probably one idea sooner or later.
Okay.
If he can prepare it. Also, it's not easy to see, as we talked before, what is even white's idea. So maybe Łukasz is just trying to see what Ding will also come up with. There can be nothing wrong with g6. It's just a useful move. Also, black can maybe improve his king's position by going king g7. So just seems like a useful improvement of the position overall to me.
Fair point.
Yeah. I think he's playing just flexible moves at the moment. Rook d6, so he can go either way and also double up. G6, covering some weak squares, maybe preparing king g7. And he's trying not to commit himself. He's obviously not sure about a move like g5 or h5, but he's also trying to just take a bit of a lead up to some future progress, maybe with f5.
Yeah. Okay.
I had a glance over at the at Leela, and Leela's main move here is wouldn't have occurred to me. It's rook cb1.
What?
I was actually thinking about this. I assume with the idea of pushing b4, yeah? This seemed like one completely different idea than what we had before. But then the weakness on b7 will actually be kind of an issue for black. So this does look interesting, even though the rook on c1 has already moved a couple of times.
Yes, yes. Indeed, yeah. Rook CB1. I mean, Leela was looking at playing F3 at some stage, yeah, and protecting E4, but then pushing B4 afterwards, and yeah, just looking to pressure that B7 pawn. And yeah, I mean, I guess from that point of view, yeah, the rook on D6 is placed a little bit funnily, a little bit clumsily. You know, might get in the way of something or other. So that's a really interesting plan, and so just, playing it very dynamically somehow. Yeah. But it's weird, right? Because I mean, you've played B3 in the opening, then you played rook DC1, and now you're going rook CB1 and B4, and you're claiming a little edge. Not a big edge. I mean, Leela's claiming after rook CB1 that White's got a 20% chance of winning. Black's got a 16% chance of winning, and the draw is 64%.
Okay.
So I mean, it's just according to Leela, it's just a small edge, but but rook CB1 is really, really interesting somehow. It's
Yeah, this is, oh, I don't think I would have thought of that move. I would earlier, I mean, I would consider going rook AB1 with the idea before, but that is worse because A5 pawn is hanging in some lines, yeah? So I guess knight C6 would be coming back at some point. What somebody suggested, what about rook A4 though, to have idea B4? So I don't have to move the C rook, that's...
Yeah, that's possible too. It's just that it's not quite giving you as much push, is it? Really, with the rook on A4, you'd rather have something pushing behind the pawn so that you're looking at B7. You're attacking B7 straight away. But it's not a bad idea, certainly. Yeah, rook A4. It's the right spirit, it seems. But it just feels a little bit like
stuck. Yeah.
Like you might open the B file and find that you've got your rook on A4 somehow. It's not quite there, I think. So I think, yeah, putting something on the B file would be better. But then, yeah, I mean, when you look at it and you know that that Leela likes it, then yeah, you do understand the rook CB1 would be better, even though it's wasting another move somehow. But yeah, I mean, all the sides are developed somehow. So I guess it's less about tempi now; it's more about maneuvering. But that would be an interesting little plan somehow. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, against B4, not quite sure. Again, it's quite a complicated little thing to work out there. Really, how are you going to deal with this plan of B4?
Yeah,
it's such a simple little move, rook b1, but it does put some pressure on black because he sees that b4 is coming and he cannot really move his knights, because if the knight on d4 moves, then knight d3 will come.
Yeah.
And if the knight on f6 moves, then knight d5 will come. So
yeah,
it's not entirely obvious.
Yeah, no, it's I'm not sort of not really understanding. I mean, I think my reaction, my natural reaction would be I'm going to play something like knight d7 then, and just protect the c5 pawn in advance, and then try and play f5 quickly. That would be my natural reaction. It might well be that that's exactly what what you're hoping for. But something like knight d7, for example.
Okay, knight d7.
So you're just prepared there. So if b takes c5, we can take back with a knight and protect b7. And I guess if knight d5, I guess I'm just going to take the plunge and go c6. And if knight e3, I want to play f5, something like this. This is what I'm thinking. I'm trying to claim that I'm getting active and that your pieces are too passive there. So
yeah, c6 is quite if I assume if you play c6, you have to then really play for active play, because once c6 is on the board, then the pawn on c5 will actually be a big target, because black can never support it with b6 anymore. But yeah, in combination with f5, it does look interesting. And then the rook on b1 and rook on a1 do seem a bit clumsy.
Yeah, although I'm actually wondering whether then you should just with white you should just go put the knight back on c3,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
cover
After
that e4
c6,
pawn.
knight
Yeah,
c3. Yeah.
and then f5, and then I don't know. Maybe we start just putting the rooks back to where they should be. You know, rook d1 or something.
Yeah.
And we're just going to because this a5 pawn is invulnerable now. You can never be attacked by c6, so you don't need to have a rook on the a file anymore. So maybe you can just, I don't know, double up on the d file, you know, and then just wait for your moment to play a knight a4 and c3 or something like that. I have the feeling I'm probably letting myself get outplayed in exactly the way that's intended, you know, by. But I would really feel that urge to do something. To be honest, you know, I wouldn't see rook cb1. I don't think, you know, from before, unless I had a long time to think, and I was just, you know, in the mood of okay, let's start thinking of other things that the opponent could do. But if it hit me on the board, I would definitely be thinking very much about, oh, I need to start moving now. I need to start doing stuff because I'm a bit nervous about b4.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know whether. I mean, you know, you do think as well about prophylactic moves like rook b8, for example. They're defending the pawn on b7, and then if b4, maybe we could take and go something like knight c6, and then I want to go rook d4 and attack your pawn after.
Yeah.
Something like that. But the problem with those sort of moves is that if I do, you know, it's great, if you go b4 now, but white doesn't have to do anything, right? And by putting the rook on b8, you've taken all the juice out of f5. So maybe white just plays f3 then, simply, you know, and sort of is going to start doing some stuff, you know, and I don't have any activity. I'm just waiting for you to do something. So, yeah. It's tough, really. I mean, you basically you need to be a good positional player with black to play these sort of positions well, and wasn't really my big strength as a player. I always found that in these sort of positions, these were the ones where I could get confused quite easily, you know, and sort of calculate some good lines, but then your opponent plays a quiet move, something like h3, yeah, sort of a Kramnik move, just consolidating, and when you realize, oh, those tactics don't work anymore, you know, it's. So it's kind of it's tricky, yeah. But Ding is thinking a long time, so yeah. I mean, it's not clear that Ding will find this sort of idea either. But the more I look at it, the more I'm feeling a bit dissatisfied with Black. But I mean, in principle, they're looking at the engine evaluations. It's only a tiny edge. Maybe Stockfish is even giving 0.00 or something.
Probably,
you know,
yeah.
in this sort of position, but I just think, you know, in general terms, if you're looking at, you know, who can do the most, who's got the most weaknesses to aim at, it's definitely White's, you know, feeling a little bit more. I can easily imagine, you know, White getting a serious edge, Black getting a serious edge. I think, you know, White would really have to misplay it quite badly for that to happen.
Yeah, I have to be honest, you know, if I had a choice to play this opening or get into this position or something else, I would pick something else. I mean, this is just not a position for me. It's very, like you said, like every move is important and every move counts here. And I'm very bad in positions where every move counts because you need to be really precise. Even with white, I have to say, like, I would not, let's say I do not find rook cb1 and I go something like h3, suddenly black can have, maybe not here, but suddenly black can have some idea that and gets an edge, yeah. So I just enjoy listening to you guys. I have to be honest. I'm learning so much, and I should. And even though, like, we can point this out, even though knight on d4 looks like, oh, this is such an active knight, this is a great knight, that means black has to have something because this knight is in the center on a perfect square, but actually it's the opposite, yeah. It's, of course, it's a great knight, but white will start pushing either b4 or maneuvering his knight, putting pressure on c5 maybe. Ideally, if I could go knight d3, and then black could be easily in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those weird pieces, you know, that sort of kind of holds black's position together, you know, by making it hard for white to go knight d3. But on the other hand, it also blocks some of black's play, right? Because you can't invade on the d file. And it's also, yeah, you know, sort of points to the fragility of black's position, because if that knight gets driven away, you know, in a bad way, then basically a lot of black's position collapses somehow, you know. So it's quite a tense little thing somehow, you know. It's a good knight, it's a great knight. You wouldn't want to put it back on d7 or anything, but yeah, you know, it can only achieve so much, you know. And it also is kind of blocking black a little bit from obvious play at any rate, like invading on the d file. But yeah, I mean, these are, you know, obviously when you're engine assisted, you know, finding all these concepts is quite is a lot easier. Obviously for Ding, you know, working this out at the board and all that, and trying to judge everything, it's you know, it's a lot more difficult somehow. So it's not clear that he'll find rook cb1 or anything like that. But oh, okay, he's played
d1,
e1.
yeah.
Okay, rook d1.
It's more logical. I mean, more logical. Looks more natural, yeah. Because yeah, again, you don't know the engine valuation. You don't know what Lila says. So rook cb1, when you play a move like that, you're like, my rook again on a closed file. You know, I will open it, but maybe not.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, you know, white's going to play rook d2, rook d1, I guess. The only thing about that is that, you know, the pawn on a5 is a bit weak somehow. So, you know, it's a little bit. Yeah. You sort of wonder how exactly does that work, you know, because as soon as I double up on the on the d file, but maybe I don't know. I mean, maybe something. You're thinking of some sort of scenario where you go. I mean, let's just say something like this, where maybe you take off like this, and yeah, you know, if black took with the d file, then you'd go back to a1 somehow. Yeah, I mean, that sort of scenario is possible. It doesn't make quite sense the way with the moves I've made, but you know. So that you actually remove some of black's attacking potential along the d file, make it easier then to cover everything with your king, you know, and make it easier to get in knight d3 or something. I mean, it's kind of possible. And of course, you know, if black doesn't, if you sort of if black, you know, doesn't double up on the d file here, then we do have the possibility of going knight d3. Yeah, so it's kind of drawing the rooks towards there, but I do think, you know, at some stage, some knight c6 is going to happen, and your rooks are going to be slightly misplaced there. But it's a very natural move at d1. It's completely natural. But it does make me think maybe that that Ding doesn't necessarily have any special knowledge anymore about the position, because it's quite you know, it's a natural human move, this, that, you know, that's completely normal, but that could be played by any player coming fresh to the position somehow.
Yeah.
Whereas rook cb1 would have shown that, oh, you know, they've really done some deep analysis on all these structures, you know. So I think we're both players are now sort of normal somehow, which should probably mean that Gukesh's chances of holding this have basically, you know, have increased somehow. Yeah.
I agree. Even though it's still like position that has so many secrets, I could say, that can get uncovered. But yeah. Also, you mentioned after rook d2, black could go h5. What's the idea behind h5?
Oh no, that was just a random move. Sorry, I was just making a move to get to the position I wanted.
No, because I think the engine usually does like h5 as well, because I was checking.
h5 h4 is what they want. It's a gain space.
Okay.
I mean, the way the engines, you know, often, you know, see these type of positions is, you know, okay, there's some white has some gains in one area, so we've got to create a gain in another area, and you know, the simplest way that, or you know, that the engine see is to gain some space on the king side. So h5 to h4, gain some space on the king side. You know, also maybe, you know, free something like that, but you're getting it ready for the end game. You know. For a later endgame, maybe at some stage, you know, you'll get some rooks coming behind pawns, this pawn will be 2 moves closer to queening. You know, it's
Nice.
it's just about creating a game to compensate for the gains that white's got on the other
Yeah.
flank.
Mhm.
You know,
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's why when black goes h5, engines usually suggest white to go h4 as well. So
they are very keen at stopping the rook's pawns
Yeah.
as soon as possible.
Mhm.
Always, it's humans tend to be more keen on stopping the rook's pawn with h3.
yeah,
The engines are very often going for h4. It's yeah, quite noticeable.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, I think actually Gukesh's got a threat here of knight g4. I think actually now because if h3, we could go
Oh, that's
knight
pretty.
h3 and knight e2. The,
Oh, okay. We have to show this. Yeah. So let's say white goes h4. No, let's say
and the
don't
move
even know.
rook
Rook
c1 or something.
b1. Yeah, rook
Mhm.
b1 something. Knight g4, king g1, and knight e2. And
Yeah, three.
opla.
Yeah,
That is cute. Yeah. We did go
right.
king g1 to protect the h2 though.
Yeah,
So.
h3. We would have gone knight h2 check, and then
Oh,
king
and
g2. Yeah,
yeah.
And the same works, Sam.
yeah, the same. It all works. The
Cute.
works the same somehow. So
Yeah,
that's.
cute.
But I think white can just play. White can just play rook d2. I think, and we're yeah, that should deal with the. So the most natural move should be and can play rook d2 here and be okay. Knight g4, we go h3, knight h2, king g1, and yeah, we're okay there.
Okay, yeah, so here this doesn't work because of course rook e2 am.
No, wait a minute. I'm going crazy here, right? Sorry, am I miscounting? No, I'm miscounting pieces simply. No, I can go knight g4 in this position.
Knight g4, yeah, h3, king g1, and knight f3. You were
Knight
probably
f3,
saying,
yeah. Whichever one. Knight f3. Knight f3 here.
yeah.
So knight f3, knight takes f3, and gf3. I go rook d2, which looks quite promising somehow.
Mhm.
Rook f2.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
King g3. Yeah, we must be get. No, maybe not. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not so promising. I don't know. We got knight b1 or something, or knight b1, knight c3. That would be maybe a draw or something. Don't know. It's has to be calculated anyway. I think because you don't. That would be a bit
That would
embarrassing.
be a funny draw.
Mhm.
Would be a bit embarrassing if it worked. h3, king g1, knight f3. He's played f3.
Okay,
F3, yeah.
let's be safe. I do
Finally,
agree.
finally,
Yeah.
yeah, that's good.
Even though, I mean, he could have gone f3 instead of king f1. Now that we're looking at this position and the position that we were talking about before king f1, I mean, going f3 and then king f2 looked a bit more. I don't know how do I phrase it.
It looks more natural. Look
Yeah.
more natural indeed. It's but it's hard. It's hard to know, right? I mean, because I mean, you often see it with Karpov games, right? That you know, Karpov moves the queen around for 5 consecutive moves, and then at the end, oh, he's better, you know, and you sort of think, well, why? But you know, it's just you know, the positions change slightly, and you know, Karpov in particular had this lovely feel for, you know, not for paying any particular attention to the logic of the game, that every move leads towards something, but just looking at a fresh position and saying, oh, and now my queen stands well here, so that's where I'm going to put it, you know, so yeah, you know, engines are very much like that, of course, and you know, this is also possible, right? You could maybe you'll be able to prove somehow that having the king on f1 in this particular position is better than f2, and just because black played the rooks over to d8 somehow, you know, it's kind of yeah, absolutely. F3 king f2 is what I would play in a blitz game every single time. But it doesn't. I guess it doesn't particularly matter. You know.
I agree.
Mhm.
The position is still like, of course, position is equal, but white has maybe more ideas, especially with this a5 pawn being in black's territory. So we are making black slightly uncomfortable, and now after f3, okay, let's say black goes I don't know, king g7 or something. What
Yeah,
are we doing? Yeah.
well, I think we've got to start looking whether knight a4 is possible now, actually.
That is,
Um,
yeah.
because but I'm just trying to make sure that there's no there's no tactic somehow, because
Yeah, you always have to watch out for these
Yes.
discoveries here.
yeah.
But it doesn't seem like it's working yet.
I mean, we could sack a knight for 3 pawns, yeah. I mean, we could go knight takes f3,
Yeah.
rook takes d6,
Yeah.
knight h2 check, king g1, rook takes d6,
Yeah.
h2, and then yeah, knight e4.
Oh.
But I think you're lacking one move. If you could maybe play rook d2 as well, you might start maybe claiming something. But white goes knight d3, you know, and deals with it all. So I think that's nothing at all, basically.
But maybe if instead of rook takes d6, c takes d6, then maybe the pawn on c5 is better protected. Could be an idea.
Yeah, could be an idea. C takes d6.
I don't
h2.
want that, thank you. Would not, I mean, we're just a piece down, basically, right?
For 3 pawns. For
3 pawns.
I mean, okay, there are 3 pawns.
Three good pawns. 3 good pawns.
Yeah.
3 good pawns. Yeah, I don't know. It's not. Yeah, it's maybe not good, but it's not crazy. C takes d6 a really good idea somehow.
It just completely changes the flow of the game. Yeah, all of a
does.
sudden anything can happen, and before it was kind of that white is pushing without any risk whatsoever. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's quite interesting because if those kingside pawns, you get a few more. You know, g5, g4, then h5, h4. Then it could be interesting. Could be interesting. Would be a risky one for
sure.
black to try. But I think that's the only one really where you sort of say, well, you just got to watch out for that one. All the others, knight c2 and all that, are not knight b3. They're not doing anything. But if you don't do that, then well, what are you doing?
After knight a4, we're in the position, or
no, this was no, yeah. So king g7, knight a4.
Yeah, knight a4. I was also thinking just to protect with knight d7. Maybe that's also reasonable.
Knight d7, yeah. So okay, and then what are we going to try? Knight d7. Now maybe we go. Let me not blunder anything. Maybe we go rook d2, or I kind of want to play c3, I guess, at some stage, or maybe I go rook a2, knight d7, rook a2, just to play knight d3.
Oh, okay.
You got to watch out. I mean, you're going to have stuff like knight c6, and I mean, I'm guessing that taking on d6. You know, if black goes knight c6 and we take on d6 and takes, that's going to be, it's a backward d pawn, but it's not going to be a particular problem for black. So yeah, knight d7 is actually, it's really sensible somehow. Need to find a good move against that.
Against rook a2?
Against knight d7 in general.
Yeah, in
general. It's not so easy for.
In general, yeah, just.
Yeah, preparing knight d3 does seem like the only way to achieve something here, or c3 as Matthew said.
Yeah, you're right. Just like something like rook b1 as well. Yeah, instead of rook a2, rook b1, idea c3.
Yeah, rook b1 is quite interesting. I mean, it supports a number of things like c3 and also b4 as well.
Yeah.
But what I was thinking about when you go something like rook b1, maybe black plays knight c6.
Yeah, then the pawn on a5 actually becomes.
And the pawn on a5 is, you know, so that's.
Yeah, you're right.
Not so obvious after knight d7 what you should do. And I guess black is, you know, kind of also maybe looking for f5 now that the knights are a bit all over the place there. So
I mean, okay, in after knight c6 I could I go something like rook d5? And this is something similar we were discussing before, yeah?
Yeah.
sacrificing a pawn, but so the knight is out of the game on a5.
Yeah, but you might not take, eh? You might just go knight takes a5 and just sort of
That's true.
you go rook d1. I don't know. I'm
I
not
mean,
sure.
if knight d3 doesn't work, I guess, yeah, then maybe not. Yeah,
You're probably only going to get
maybe
one,
not.
get your pawn back and and not really not have much more than that.
That's true.
But yeah,
That's true. Yeah, yeah. Whenever I move the a rook, then knight c6 is
Oh,
slightly annoying.
Lukesh has played king g7, by the way.
Oh, really? Yay! I don't know if that's good actually for him.
Right. It was a bit of a nothing move, really, but yeah. But Gukesh is waiting. He's sort of he doesn't want to commit to anything. He's just putting the onus back on Ding, and but it's a good, sensible move. It's protecting the knight on f6. There won't be any knight d5 to e7 check, so it's a good move.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's just a normal move. Yeah, avoiding all the checks, all the possible ideas. I don't know what his idea is with black. Like you said, it's more of a waiting move, which I get it, Gukesh, I get it. I would also just be waiting for this game to be over if I had this position. But okay, that's just because it's not my style. I think Gukesh usually does enjoy these kind of positions, but of course he would prefer to have white colors in this one, yeah?
I mean, I wonder whether white can play knight d5 here, actually.
Oh.
I was also thinking about that right now. Yeah, knight d5 seems like a logical way to possibly change the structure in white's favor after knight takes d5, c takes d5.
Oh, yeah.
But I thought that black there again is quite fast with counterplay with f5.
Oh.
Yeah. Because I just got attracted by the trick, after knight d5. It takes knight e6 if you wanted to try and exploit the...
The pin.
It's just stupid. But I go d takes c6, and then
Yeah.
you take on d1, and then I play e7 afterwards. It's just this stupid thing somehow. Takes and e7.
Oh, sorry, yeah. I was... you said knight e6, yeah.
But okay, but you're right. F5 would probably be a good. Although, yeah, no, it's probably good.
Yeah, and my thinking was that in this position after f5, if white were to get c3, he would probably be quite happy.
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe instead of starting with knight d5, he could start with rook a b1, which is, it's,
it's
quite deep, so that in the same variation after knight d5 takes cd5, f5, there's c3 then. But it does look a bit strange.
Maybe after rook a b1, we'll go knight c6 with black, maybe.
Yeah, again, same problem. A5 pawn, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I thought now maybe I can go knight d3. But...
Knight takes a5, knight takes c5, yeah.
And then take either of the pawns, I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, that seems quite interesting, actually. Either of them look interesting.
I would even prefer to take on e5, because then I have the arguably better pawn structure in the endgame,
Yeah, that looks quite, that looks annoying. Yeah, could be rook b1 is really subtle, yeah, but that could be a really good move.
Yeah, just to prepare knight d5. I don't know, let's say black goes something like h5 again, just to wait and see. Then maybe knight d5, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Take cd5, and now after f5, I have c3. Still, it's not so clear if this is anything special.
Black plays knight b5, and you can play the rook over to f6, and then play knight d6 somehow.
Yeah.
Maybe you should take with the e pawn, yeah, or wait for f5.
That's also one idea, huh?
Do we want to take with the e pawn? Okay.
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, again, I'd rather have my king on f2 then to cover that. But it's not so crazy, right? Because you take with the e pawn, and then you're threatening you're threatening c3 and b4 and knight d3. It could actually go reasonably fast somehow, but. Yeah, I mean, I think we're sort of seeing the sort of position where we're saying, well, in principle, we think it's feeling like black's always got enough defensive resources somehow, but it's not necessarily easy. And there's quite a bit of it's quite rich, the position, surprisingly rich, in terms of what you can do, and Black's got to be alert to what's happening. But I think that Gukesh has played it, by human standards, he's played it extremely well, I think. Hasn't played the G5, H5 plans that the engines would play, but he's put his pieces very, very sensibly. He hasn't made it easy or offered Ding any targets, and he's put his pieces actively and flexibly as well. So, I think he's doing a good job. It's so.
Yeah, absolutely. And okay, I think the times on our broadcasts are actually wrong. Gukesh has 46 minutes with Black after King G7. Or maybe it's right. Maybe it's on the
I think
other
Ding has
broadcast side.
50. Ding has 55. I think he's been thinking for about 8 minutes so far. So
Yeah,
I think
that's true. Yeah, so King G7 is on the board. Yeah, you're right. 46 minutes for Gukesh, and Ding has 55 minutes. So there's only like 10 minutes difference right now. But it's move 18, and they still have 22 moves to go. And they don't have 30 seconds increment per move as we usually do when we play classical games. I don't know. Of course it's not the time to get worried yet, but it might become a factor, or maybe not in this game. What do you think, Matthew? Is time gonna be a factor here, or probably
yeah.
not?
It could all just peter out quickly all of a sudden. I mean, that's the thing. So I don't think you're worried about your time yet. It's just that if it does start, if White's still got a small edge, or if Black develops a small edge, and you're very short of time, that's not good. That's when you can turn a small edge into something more serious somehow. But for the moment, I guess the likelihood is that the advantage, the initiative that White has, will dissipate, and then the time won't really matter. So for the moment, I don't think you're worried. But obviously, the more efficiently you can play, the better, of course.
Yeah, I agree. So let's let them think, and we might take our second break of the day, coffee break. So yeah, guys, we'll be back soon, and see you in a few minutes. Stay here.
See you.
And welcome back to the commentary of World Chess Championship that is actually happening in Singapore for the first time, if I am correct, um, between Ding Liren and Gukesh D. Today we have a actually looks boring game, but trust me, it is not. This position actually holds many traps, many secrets, many dynamic positions, as we were discussing before, right, Matthew?
Yeah, no, it's surprising somehow. I think you keep on. I guess that there's a big conflict in the position, which is the knight on d4, which is stopping white from playing knight d3 because it's attacking c2 and b3. And basically, you sort of feel that if white could resolve that and push that knight back, or get the knight onto d3, deal with the threats that black's got, then black could be in trouble. So you end up actually calculating a lot of variations. It's a surprising amount, really, for such a symmetrical looking position. Yeah, I mean, I feel that that Ding is not quite feeling the inspiration there. It's my feeling from the last few moves. It's rook d1, and he's played king f1 before, and now f3 and king f2. So it feels a little bit like until now both players, well, last 3 or 4 moves, they've got into a bit of a waiting for each other kind of mode, where they're waiting to see, okay, well, I'll just try and improve my position a tiny little bit and see whether you're going to do anything. Is black going to move the knight from f6 so that I can maybe play knight d5, or are you going to move the knight from d4, or are you going to do something else? I think they're in that sort of mood somehow. So it's yeah, it's quite, but it's surprisingly tense moment somehow, in the game, because a player could make an odd mistake, just miss something, and suddenly you're a lot worse, either player, I think. So
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's why I was saying before that this is not exactly a position that I would like to have on the board, even though it looks very calm, very simple. Well, it is not, especially because of this pawn structure. Pawn on a5, double pawns on the c file, both for them. And yeah, Felix, what are you predicting what's gonna happen in this game?
I mean, the position still looks to me like it's a bit more pleasant for white. I think that black sooner or later has to get some active play on the king side, either with h5, h4, or with somehow pushing f5. Otherwise, I think that white will just slowly play something like king e3, then rook c1, and then somehow try to prepare knight d3 or knight d5. So yeah, it seems to me like white still has more possible threats to put up, and he is the one having the slight strategic advantage with the pawn still being on a5. I think this makes a huge difference for the position overall. I think we haven't mentioned it quite yet. If black's pawn would be on a5 and white's pawn would be on a4, it would be a completely different story. But the pawn on a5 is just such a strong asset for white, just clamping down black's queen side. But still, a position, of course, is objectively probably around balanced. So I'm sure that Gukesh will figure out a way to hold the balance. But yeah, to me, it still seems like white has somewhat of the easier play.
Yeah, yeah. I guess we agree, Matthew, yeah?
yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. It's I would I'd rather be white in this position. It feels like white's got more possibilities, but yeah, I do feel, and probably in general,
Yeah,
that
that's true, yeah.
black should be able to hold it. But
Yeah,
I mean, this move king f2, by the way, it made this idea of knight d5, knight takes d5, e takes d5 a little bit more possible, because now knight f5 is no longer forking e3. So has some sort of points. And Gukesh has played h5 in actual fact. So he's looking for it's not the most natural way. I guess I would have been thinking more about moving the knight and playing f5 somehow, especially with the king on the f file. Sort of things that attract you. But I guess the Gukesh is maybe also a little bit nervous about moving the knight from f6 and allowing knight d5. I mean, actually, I don't actually know what. Yeah, not quite sure how I'd react to knight d5 in actual fact. I was actually kind of thinking a little bit about playing rook d7 in actual fact. The reason being actually that it carries instead of h5. The reason being that it carries the threat of knight takes c2. Because after knight takes c2, I play rook d2 check, and it's important to have the rook defended so I can just take c2 afterwards. So it's what I was kind of wondering about, but it's probably again it's just yeah, you've got to be careful there that you get caught up in tactics somehow, and then just end up misplacing your piece because the rook on d7 is not ideal. Of course, that means that you can't play knight d7 to protect the pawn. But I was actually slightly wondering how white was going to deal with that. But
rook d7, maybe knight d5 now.
Maybe knight d5 now. Yeah, it's probably be a good a better idea there.
That would be an idea, because then the rook on d7 is probably a little misplaced there, as you've said.
Maybe just take like this. I like the idea of taking with the e pawn, I have to say, because you are actually threatening c3 now. So if you went f5, I go c3, and knight b3. I've got rook a3. Haha, winning the knight. So actually, it's kind of a little bit it's a little bit awkward somehow.
Yeah.
So that's the big advantage about taking with the e pawn. If you take with the c pawn and and you went c3, then black could take and go c4, and return. But taking with the e pawn, you're threatening c3. You've got knight d3. Yeah, then the rook on d7. You're suddenly feeling really stupid that you put it there. So yeah, it might be an idea there. But yeah, Gukesh has played the move h5.
Yes.
So
yeah, and according to Sadler's law, white should play h4 here, right?
h4, yeah. This is. I'm sure every single engine is screaming h4 at the moment.
Yes.
Because it makes sense, right? Because the nice thing about the move h4 is that if you do something else, then black's got a very simple plan h4. You know what your next move is. But if you play h4, then black's got to think about, Ding has gone knight e2. I think Ding is really Ding is very much in the I've had enough mood.
Yeah.
I think maybe it feels like a little bit somehow, because that's it's not a bad move, but it's kind of bringing stuff to.
You think this is a silent draw offer?
It's not the sort of move that's going to scare Gukesh anyway. I think.
I guess.
It does look a bit passive, but it's also understandable, I would say, from a human point of view, because the knight on d4 is a very annoying piece, and Ding just wants to finally get rid of it, and then finally he can put his knight to d3.
Yeah.
So.
That's true. So what happens if we just decide to exchange everything? Just curious about it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to exchange my d4 knight. I'm just curious, like, what's going on if I do.
Yeah, I guess we'd take like that. Takes.
And would you say that this endgame is easily drawn? Is it playable? Is it tricky? Because knight endgames, can we talk about knight endgames, please? This has been laying on my heart. Why are they so difficult? Or you don't agree? Are they not difficult?
All endgames are quite tricky, really.
Yeah. Matthew, do you have experience with knight endgames, or?
I'm trying to think. Knight endgame. It's been many years, I think, since I had a good knight endgame.
I avoid them as well.
They don't come on the board that often, I would say, right? I mean, rook endgames, of course, being the most likely ones to come, but knight endgames you don't see that often, I would argue. Yeah.
No, I think you're right. It's weird, but right. I think you see bishop endings more often than pure knight endgames somehow. I don't think this one's too bad somehow. I think this one should be completely fine for.
Yeah, it seems like black can just put his knight to d7, then maybe even gain some more space with f5, but doesn't even have to. I guess he can just
no,
wait
I think this is completely fine. I mean, you've got the c3 b4 break for white, but black doesn't even really need to react to that somehow. So You know, I think it's no, I think black would be fine there somehow.
Oh, and did Gukesh went knight c6?
Gukesh went knight c6, yeah.
Oh, wow. It's a
Okay.
bit surprising.
I mean, he's threatening rook d1.
Oh, we're not going for a repetition, are we? We're not
That
going
would
to
be.
knight c3, knight d4, knight e2.
Oh.
Ah,
No, I don't think knight c3. You were saying knight c3, right?
yeah.
Knight c3. Does that work after rook d1? Isn't a5
Yeah,
hanging?
I take with a knight on d1.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
but okay. So okay, let's just show that. So if I go knight c3, let's say I'm ding and I'm offering draw, and black says no, I take knight d1, and I guess knight a5 doesn't work.
Yeah, rook a5. Simply.
Because
There's probably
rook's-
others as well, but rook c5. This is good for white.
Yeah, and also if I want to go something like this pawn is protected
Yeah.
with this knight, so
e2 is
I
protected as well, so I just go to e3.
yeah, easy white.
Oh, this feels like a little draw offer somehow.
I think Gukesh has had enough as well, right? Of this position.
Well, I mean,
I think he's not
it's,
happy with it.
You know, this is a white game. There's been some slightly irritating preparation, right? Which, you know, had the potential to be difficult. And so I think if he ties it off, plays sensibly, you know, he'll sort of say, well, okay, I've stabilized now, you know. So I think for Gukesh, that would be good. For Ding, yeah, okay, nothing stupid has happened. He's pressed a little bit, you know, didn't find any way to make anything special. But okay, he's still a point up in the match. So, you know, I think both players would not be averse to it from this position. And, you know, I have the feeling, as I said, you know, with probably, you know, move 16 to 20 somehow, you have the feeling that Ding just didn't really feel the position. He didn't really feel the joy of grinding it somehow. So I think wouldn't amaze me somehow if you know, if this was a bit of a tacit draw offer and
But okay, let's say, yeah, I mean, it of course could be, but let's say, okay, that knight c3, knight d4 happens. I mean, as Ding, you can now say, okay, now I'm gonna use the Sadler's rule and go h4, yeah?
you certainly could.
Now I'm gonna like, okay, I know in what mindset you are now. Okay, you want the draw? No, okay, I'm not giving it to you. And again, asking black, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. What is black doing after h4? Not 100% sure.
Yeah, because we can actually try using the engine a bit, because of course this position is very difficult. We had many lines to analyze, and I mean, of course, engine, I don't know, you have probably stronger engines, Matthew, and also you, Felix. I'm just using the Lichess one.
Me too.
Okay.
No worries.
That is suggesting move like knight g8 or knight e8. And for example, then white goes knight a4, attacking the c5 pawn, and black just goes knight f6 back. Which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I've got. I'm just glancing over here at Leela, and Leela was suggesting actually after including h5, h4 to play an idea of knight to h7, f8 to e6. So just putting the knight on e6 covers c7 and c5, which is quite nice, and yeah, also leaving space free for f5 or g5. You know, I thought that's quite a nice idea somehow.
Yeah, Felix?
Quite sensible.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out knight h7 is a nice idea with idea of knight f8, knight e6, yeah. But if knight a4, knight f8, I just tried to understand why white cannot just take the pawn on c5.
Yes.
But it turns out that black can take on c2, knight takes c2, and after rook takes d6, he has c takes d6, attacking the knight on c5. So this is a pretty nice idea.
Yeah, and
I see that Ding has played knight c3, yeah, after knight c6.
Has he?
Is that right?
Oh yes, he has. Okay, okay.
You can trust an old guy to search out these repetitions. Yeah, I think we're going to get a rev. There's no point. There's no point in playing rook takes d1. I think it might be the best move because I mean, in all fairness, after knight c3, if you go rook takes d1, knight d1, you can play h4, and that would be interesting if Gukesh does this because I
Yeah.
mean, you get your h4 in, right? So I mean, I don't know how great that is, but I don't think we're claiming advantage here. But yeah, it would be.
Let's see that h4. I mean, now we're getting somewhere with black, you know. I mean, rook is stuck on a1 because of a5, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so. I mean, because if king e3, then maybe I've even got knight takes a5 now.
Oops.
Possibly because after rook takes d1, I'll be attacking the knight on e1. You know, so no, probably it's probably even that though is probably not good. You go king e2 after. Yeah, I'm not really sure I'm threatening anything, and I don't really know whether it's worth it. But it would be quite hilarious somehow if that happened.
If
Maybe
Gukesh
white
decides
knight d3 or something. You know, that's also possible. I don't think there would be any point to it at all, to be honest, to do it. But yeah. You just can't underestimate these young guys somehow. I mean, I know in my day and age we'd be hugging each other and reaching for the draw. You know, that's how things went in those days. But these guys, you know, nowadays, you know, the fighting spirit is unbelievable. Simply.
Yeah.
The things that people play and things that people do. So you can never be 100% sure. But I would say that it would be very sensible, you know, for Gukesh just to play knight d4. But of course, the real boss move really would be that if Gukesh plays knight d4 again, which he's done. If Ding then plays h4 immediately, that would be that would be absolutely incredible, right? I mean, no, he's gone knight d2. It's going to be a draw. It's going to be a draw.
Oh, come on. Okay, they repeated. Yeah, I think they're gonna claim the draw very soon.
Looks like it now.
Yeah. Oh no, I really wanted h4 on the board from one or the other, but yeah, no. This is just a draw. They decided
it's sensible somehow. It's sensible. It's but a bit of a shame, I think, for Ding somehow, because I think he has some really nice preparation, has some really nice ideas, and he just needed to get a little bit further, I think, to. And anyway, for me, it would have been unpleasant to face as black. Some of these ideas with b4 or whatever.
Yeah,
maybe
let's go. Exactly. Yeah, let's go to the position that we were discussing. That could be very interesting. So, first of all, rook dc1 on move 13. Move 14, sorry, was a very special move, but somehow had very, very great idea, especially with this knight e1 on move 15. And then, yeah, after king f1, I think this is where we were slightly saying, of course, this is a good move, but strategically we were saying f3, then rook cb1, b4, right? Something like that would be a very good idea, and also very straightforward plan, putting pressure on this b file, putting pressure on the queen side pawns, especially because this is where we have the advantage, right? This is where we have the space advantage, and we should be playing on it. On the king side, we don't care, we just protect everything. We make sure that knight e2 never works for black, and don't blunder any bad forks. And yeah, that's where I guess we were starting to feel after king f1 and then rook d1 that Ding is actually just kind of accepting that he will take the draw, right? Yeah, Matthew?
I think I mean, I just think he didn't really feel, that there was anything that he could do in the position somehow. And I mean, I imagine that he saw, all of the plans we were talking about, but they somehow didn't grab him somehow. So he ended up playing, a little bit slowly and a little bit colorlessly, I guess. But yeah, it's. I think it was. I think there was a potential for a bit more somehow, but yeah. I mean, it's not to be, and it's a decent result, decent continuation, and Now putting the onus on Gukesh to make something as black. I mean, sort of the Russians always used to say that it was good from time to time to prove that you could make a draw with white. you know, and just show that if I want to make a draw, I will make a draw, no problem. You know.
Yeah.
I've never quite believed that somehow. To be honest, it always seemed a bit odd to me. Just an excuse for not actually trying somehow. But yeah, you know, it's also good to show that I can just play solidly and not do anything stupid, and you know that's fine too. So, but yeah, I mean the match it's a long match, right? So it's
14
I
games,
think
yeah.
we'll be okay with what happens. Gukesh has
Yeah.
got himself on the scoreboard. You know, the loss doesn't seem to have had any particular effect. He played very sensibly. He played very normally and everything. Didn't do anything stupid at all. And yeah, Ding is consolidating his point advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say though I'm a bit surprised or a bit sad that Ding just didn't use the momentum. Of course, it's very understandable that he also wants to consolidate his 1 point advantage, but I would have expected him to maybe, use the momentum he gained from the first win, and maybe try to push for something more. But as Matthew said, he just didn't feel the position probably as well as he would wish, and therefore went for the draw, which of course is also a very sensible decision.
Yeah. But I think, yeah. I mean, I do think. Well, you know, you mustn't read too much into it, but I do think that, yeah, you know, it just shows that he's. I think that Ding is maybe not in, you know, absolutely amazing form somehow, right? I mean, he's looked really good in the first game, but he's not ready to just you know, push Gukesh off the board there. You know, I think so. I think, yeah, there's, you know, plenty of encouragement as well for Gukesh from that point of view. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, he needed to start solidly. A shame for yesterday's game, but at least it was very interesting, very dynamic, and I guess he just needed something more solid, something where he could calm down, and I think both are satisfied, yeah? Should be satisfied.
Yeah. No, I think so. There's everything to play for in the match still. So it's yeah, you know, and I think, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of expecting the games with Gukesh as white and Ding as black to be more exciting than the ones the other way around somehow. Yeah, I think Ding's going to play a little bit sharper as black. I think, and with white, I think he's going to try and play a little bit more solidly and not give anything away somehow. You know, and so yeah, expecting a more exciting game tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. I was very happy, or I am very happy with today's commentary. You guys are amazing. Of course, your insights are incredible. Matthew, thank you for joining us.
No, pleasure. Thanks very much.
And I hope you will be joining us again eventually, because your insights are, of course, amazing. Everybody in the chat is also very excited to see you again, and that they're following your analysis on Lila. And yeah, that's just amazing. Yeah, you're very popular here.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, and everybody also at the beginning, Matthew, they love your background. They love the piano. And somebody was asking if you actually live in a castle, which, I mean, the room looks amazing. So
This is my parents' house actually. So
it's lovely.
But my brother was a pianist when he was younger, concert pianist, and so my parents have always had a piano in the room where he used to practice. So
it looks amazing, and with the chandelier on top, it looks magical.
Yeah, it's not quite a castle, I have to say, but it's a nice house though, and there's just the front room's a nice one with the piano, and my mum liked the idea of having a chandelier above the piano. That's why it's like that. So
it is very lovely.
It's not my own little flat is a lot smaller than that.
Okay. Yeah. No, okay, thank you. Really, thank you so much, Felix. Thank you so much, Matthew. Felix, I will see you tomorrow, hopefully.
Yes, can't
Please
wait
show
for
up. No, yeah, tomorrow we're gonna have, hopefully, another very interesting guest. And of course, same time, same hour, same time, same hour. That means exactly the same. What am I saying? So yeah, thank you very much, guys, for coming, for chat to be so inclusive, to be so full of comments and positive energy. And yeah, hopefully tomorrow's game is gonna be more interesting, especially because Ding is black again, and we might see very interesting opening again, something like French defense. Maybe it's time for Caro-Kann or something, you know. But we'll see. Yeah, very excited for tomorrow. Thank you again, and see you again soon.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.